The Dragon Ball official website went and got an actual psychologist to dissect and evaluate Vegeta and his relationship with Trunks. Remember, the Dragon Ball official website is connected to Shueisha and Toei Animation, so they are in the know when it comes to Dragon Ball, meaning that if they're coming out with a father-son psychologist profile for Dragon Ball on Vegeta and Trunks, this means that this could carry over to something big when it comes to both of these characters and their characterization. I don't think this is a surprise, especially since we are getting Dragon Ball Daima, which in this show we're going to be seeing Vegeta as a child for the first time. So it does make sense why they are making an article like this, why they did the research like this. It just still kind of feels out of pocket, but let's go over the interview and see if we can learn anything new, not only about Vegeta, but specifically his relationship with Trunks. I wonder if they're going to focus on his years in the Cell Saga, where Vegeta was just a pure dick to future Trunks for no apparent reason, only to get pissed off when Cell finally kills him and he tries to get retribution that way. But I'm curious to see what they say. So they interviewed a lecturer of Kyoto University, Daisuke Akumatsu, and this guy has a doctor in psychology. He focuses on student motivation and learning methodology in secondary education, world language education. So it does sound like this guy's gonna have a good head on his shoulders when it comes to diagnosing and evaluating somebody like a younger Vegeta or a teen Vegeta, something along those lines, and just Trunks as well. The father-son relationship, because he's got all this education and degree, so I'm hoping that we get some good stuff out of this. So the first section is called Vegeta Raised Without Knowing What a Father Is. Vegeta is a warrior with a strong sense of pride at his core. What do you think caused him to develop that type of personality? Did Vegeta losing his father at such a young age play a role? From what I've read of the manga's dialogue, it doesn't seem like the death of King Vegeta affected him that much, which, I mean, it is outwardly basically said in the manga and in the anime, especially in DBS Broly, that he didn't really care too much about his father, which would, if that's the case, it would seem that Vegeta isn't really close to his father like that, or at least didn't spend enough time with him before he was taken away from him. Ordinarily, young children develop a strong attachment to their parents, so losing someone that important at a young age has a profound impact that lasts the rest of their lives. However, during his fight with the Doria, Vegeta says, "I could care less about the planet, my fellow Saiyans, or my parents," which leads me to believe that he does not have much affection toward his father. Since Saiyans are a warrior race that are raised in a capsule during infancy, my guess is they don't develop a bond with their parents the way most children do. I was talking about that this might have been like 2 months ago in a video about the Saiyans and, you know, them growing up and being raised and being created, basically, how being in a capsule would make them, you know, basically disconnect from their parents for a long period of time, and how that could shape their need for either not wanting to be close to a family or wanting to be close to a family because they didn't get it. Would that have had an effect on Vegeta's personality? It's certainly possible that his lack of an attachment to his parents influenced his personality. Infant children developed a framework for their relationships called an internal working model, based on their interactions with their parents. Since Vegeta's father died when he was so young, he was unable to form an internal working model, which is why he isn't good at forming personal relationships with people he meets. Makes sense. It also makes sense why Goku is also kind of disattached. Not as bad as Vegeta, but is more like kind of distant to family members and focused mainly on training, because, I mean, I don't even know how long he was with Guine when he came out of the capsule before they put that little outfit on him and sent him off into space. Vegeta never knew what a real father was from the get-go, and yet he takes a great amount of pride in being the Prince of Planet Vegeta. Yes, even in the latter half of the story, his emphasis on being the Prince of all Saiyans is strongly linked to his sense of self. So it isn't because he's attached to his father, it is because it's who he is. He is royalty, he knows that, and he probably was being told that for his entire life, not only by Nappa and Raditz, but probably by Frieza as well, like, you're the last of the Saiyans, you are the Saiyan Prince. And probably not in an endearing way, more than likely in a "you will do what I say" kind of thing, you know? Why do you think Vegeta is obsessed with being a prince even though his planet was wiped out before he could assume the throne? To Vegeta, the fact that he's a prince and comes from royal pedigree may be more important than actually assuming the throne. He draws a great deal of encouragement from telling himself, "I'm a prince, therefore I must be strong." So his pedigree, his royalty, it is connected to his internal strength. Remember, in the beginning of the Saiyan saga, he was even saying that he's a high class Saiyan. He's a high tier on, at least in the totem pole when it comes to the Saiyans. And so the Saiyans that are stronger are usually the ones that are more royal. They're the ones that are closer to power. And that's why King Vegeta was upset that Broly, who was on the lower tiers of a low class warrior, was in that chamber with his son, because, you know, he isn't supposed to be there, but his power put him there. It made it so. Vegeta eventually settles on Earth and takes Bulma as his wife. What kind of psychological changes do you think Vegeta went through during this period? Vegeta and Bulma's relationship isn't depicted that much, so this is just conjecture on my part, but Eric H. Erickson's psychological theory of human development may give us a hint regarding Vegeta's psyche. The psychological theory of human development states that humans grow in a healthy manner by mastering certain developmental tasks during each stage of life. Vegeta also mastered an important development task hypothesized by this theory and appears to undergo a psychological transformation as a result. So of course we're going to wonder, what developmental task did he master? Vegeta appears to be in his 30s when he marries Bulma. According to the psychological development stages, a person that age is in the early adult stage of development, a stage in which a person should master developmental tasks of intimacy. In this stage of development, creating an intimate bond and finding a partner is important for healthy development. On the other hand, failure to do so results in isolation. In the Cell arc, Trunks as a teenager explains that the reason his father and mother ended up together was because Bulma saw how lonely Vegeta looked. My guess is he was still wavering between intimacy and isolation, but in the end wound up creating a relationship with Bulma. Man, this is good stuff. So even someone like Vegeta was able to find a partner and build a relationship with them. Why do you think that partner ended up being Bulma? From the psychological perspective, there are many possible reasons. For example, there are cases where prolonged exposure can play a role. This is called the mere exposure effect. This phenomenon is when someone grows to like something they had no interest in previously by becoming more familiar with it. After Planet Namek was destroyed, Bulma took it upon herself to invite Vegeta to live at her compound because he looked lonely. That means they would have had frequent contact with each other over a long period of time. This may have resulted in both of them developing attraction towards one another, even though none existed previously. Moreover, to Vegeta, it's possible Bulma provided him with a sense of authenticity. In psychological terms, it broadly means that ability to be true to oneself, which makes sense because she looked past his gruff exterior and she could tell that he was lonely. So she could definitely tell a little bit deeper about Vegeta as, she spent more time with him. In order to gain a sense of authenticity, you need a person who accepts you and an environment that allows you to be who you are. As someone laser focused on becoming stronger, the advanced technology on the Capsule Corporation headquarters provided Vegeta with the ideal place to be his authentic self. Even after marrying Bulma, Vegeta continued to use the facilities in the Capsule Corporation for his training. So, married for perks, maybe? I don't know. During the Android Cell arcs, Vegeta has a son, and the teenage version of his son also enters the picture. Despite becoming a father, we don't see much change in Vegeta's personality or how he conducts himself. True, he treats future Trunks as another warrior rather than as a son. Why do you think that is? That's interesting. I never thought of it that way, that he treated Trunks not like his own kid. So if he didn't see him as his own kid because he was an adult, and remember, he had met him earlier and he was kind of jealous of him being a Super Saiyan before he was a Super Saiyan, so there was a little bit of that, just him holding back any sort of bonding, knowing that's his son, and just thinking, he's his competition. Then that would make sense why he was such a dick to him the entire time, even though Trunks didn't really understand. I mean, none of us really did, and didn't really show him, because he just treated him like, say, Piccolo or Goku or something. Like, you're just another guy, until Cell killed him, and then that's when he was like, oh, that's my kid. But let's see what the psychologist says. A father who isn't there for his partner's pregnancy or birth and then doesn't interact with his child after they're born won't feel like he's a father and will be difficult for him to feel affection towards his family. Awareness of fatherhood grows in someone through the experience of, for example, soothing a crying baby at night or finding ways to compromise with a child who's being selfish. Future Trunks appears suddenly as a teenager. It's only natural Vegeta wouldn't have any fatherly feelings towards him. In other words, it takes more than just the birth of a child for a man to feel like a father. Amen to that, brother. This guy, he knows it, man. He's got it on lock here. I like this interview so far. On the other hand, near the climax of the Cell arc, Vegeta becomes blind with fury at the sight of Future Trunks being killed and rushes headfirst at Cell. At that moment, he clearly felt love for the future version of his son. It was definitely out of character for Vegeta to charge to Cell under those circumstances. At what point do you think Vegeta began to care for Trunks? That's a good one. I was thinking it was right then and there. I don't think that it was before this, but let's see what he says. I recall that there was a scene in which Vegeta and Future Trunks, together in the Room of Spirit and Time, I believe the time they spent there provided the opportunity for them to develop a relationship. However, it's not clear if the relationship was father or son or master and student. I think it's probably master and student, to be honest with you. There's a possibility that training together formed a master-student relationship rather than a father-son one. Precisely. However, even in regular families, there's overlap between father, child, master, and student relationships, and it's believed those overlapping relationships dynamics fulfill the same purpose. In the world of kabuki and sports, for example, simultaneous parent-child and master-student relationships are fairly common, and I think Vegeta and Trunks share a similar relationship. At any rate, the way Vegeta flew into a rage upon seeing Trunks die makes it clear he developed some sort of affection towards him. In other words, Vegeta slowly but surely began to develop some awareness of fatherhood throughout the events of the Android and Cell arcs. So this is the question that I really wanted answered before I even started this interview, and I'm glad that they're finally answering it. And I like this, that they're bringing like psychologists to kind of like dig deeper into Dragon Ball, because I believe that it is a very deep show and not just punch punch and blast blast. I think it's more intricate than that. I mean, maybe not super intentionally, but definitely there is some there. And so I'm glad that they answered that, because I wasn't even thinking about the fact that, you know, there was no connection there. He wasn't instinctively like, oh, you're my kid. And at the same time, he's not like, you know, pushing Trunks to be his kid or anything like that. He just thinks of him as another warrior, which I like that. Vegeta comes across quite differently in the subsequent Majin Buu arc. For example, when he's training with a smaller Trunks from his timeline, he actually offers to take him to the park if Trunks can land a single hit on him. It seems that his experiences during the Cell arc allowed Vegeta to grow as a father. After making the offer, Trunks responds quite enthusiastically. He's not simply happy for a chance to go to the park, he's happy to have his father accompany him there. In other words, young Trunks has a clear affection for Vegeta, because that's his dad. Vegeta had no love for his father, King Vegeta, so he grew up not knowing what a father is. However, he clearly loves and cares for his son Trunks. He was able to build the father-son relationship with his son that he never had with his own father. And that is moving. Yeah, that does make sense. And that's one of my favorite scenes from the Buu arc, right before the tournament, where they were training, and, you know, he said, you can land a hit on me, I'll take you to get some ice cream, or I'll take you to the park, or whatever. And then Trunks does by going into Super Saiyan. I love that. The manga doesn't delve into the relationship into detail, but I think you could make a case that Vegeta raising his son Trunks had a deep impact on him. The reason I think is because of how different both versions of Trunks are. The teenage version of Trunks is cool, straightforward, while the child version of Trunks is a bit of a scamp and quite proud of himself. Both versions of Trunks have the exact same genetic makeup, so in that sense they are the exact same person. Despite this, their personalities could not be more different. This could be due to the different environments each one was raised in and how much that impacted their respective development. Vegeta died when Future Trunks was still very little. If Vegeta wasn't around for the Trunks of his timeline either, that version of his son might have developed a similar personality to his future counterpart. But since they're both very different types of people, it's reasonable to assume Vegeta played a role in his son's upbringing, which had a significant impact on his personality. What kind of psychological changes do you think Vegeta went throughout the story? I think Erikson's psychological theory of human development theory that I mentioned earlier can be applied here. After entering the early adulthood stage, Vegeta avoided isolation by mastering the development task of intimacy and became a partner to Bulma, which is a huge W. From the Majin Buu arc on, where Vegeta enters middle adulthood, where he has to master generativity. In middle adulthood, it becomes time to contribute to helping raise the next generation. Vegeta trains his son Trunks and watches over his development, meaning he's cleared his midlife development task as a result. According to Erikson's psychological theory of human development, if one is unwilling to make his contribution to society, they may be overtaken with stagnation, which can shake their identity to its core. This is often referred to as a midlife crisis, which may be a perfect metaphor for what happens to Vegeta when he sells his soul to Babidi during their fight with his minions, which I 100% agree. He was definitely going through some sort of midlife crisis, and it makes sense, like, with the age and how everything went, because Vegeta has to be in his 40s in the Buu arc, and it's only been a few years in the Super, so he's been in his 40s throughout, getting like Super Saiyan God, Blue, all that stuff. So he's about to be hitting his 50s here, as well as Goku, if we do another time skip. So I mean, they're gonna be old men, man. They're already grandpas, but they're gonna be old as hell. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're serving up the next generation, and that's kind of what, like, Dragon Ball Daima and like even this interview is kind of pushing, is like that next generation, you know? You're referring to the scene where Vegeta allows Babidi to brainwash him in order to defeat Goku. Vegeta declares to his rival, "I want to be the way I used to be. I want to be the ruthless and cold-blooded Saiyan, to fight it out with you, not caring about anything else." So while he took pride in raising his child, he was also suffering because he felt like he was losing his desire for strength, which is an instinct all Saiyans possess. Yes, I believe he was feeling a sense of stagnation. However, before using a self-destructive technique in order to defeat Majin Buu, he tells his son Trunks, "Take care of your mom." After struggling between generativity and stagnation, Vegeta ultimately accepts who he's become and accepts the love he has for his family, even though it was too late at that point. That is such a wonderful story. I would say that Vegeta is a good example of someone mastering developmental tasks and slowly but surely becoming a father as a result. And that is why Vegeta is number one. That is why he is my favorite character in Dragon Ball, because everything he says, basically, I mean, I'm not in my 40s, but I'm heading in that same direction as Vegeta. So, you know, I feel like very connected to the character, and that's kind of why I really like him. I made a whole video why I love Vegeta a while back, but yeah, this is a great interview. I want to see more of these. I want to see one on Goku, to be honest with you. So hopefully they come out with the Goku one, because I mean, Vegeta is going to be in Daima. Hopefully they got one for Goku all ready. I want the same guy though. This guy actually knows what he's talking about. He's cooking. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below.
Subscribe for more content. Or perish.